Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 736. I had the white pieces and started off with d6, and d4 rather, and my opponent went d6. So d6 is one of those rare moves. You see knight f6 and d5 are by far the top choices, but e6 and d6 are kind of respectable alternatives getting into, well, specific lines, normally going into, with e6 trying to get into a French defense, or and with d6 trying to get into maybe a Pierce or a King's Indian type setup. But also it can lead to a Philidor type of position, as we see in this game, after e4, knight f6. Pretty logical move, attacking this pawn, and d6 kind of discourages that pawn from coming forward, although I suppose I could push it. That would lead to a queen trade and not a very attractive position for white. And besides, you've got this big center. Your main objective really should be just to hold on to it with white. I mean, you put those two pawns in the center for a reason. You want to keep them there. And the main move here by far is knight to c3, and it's probably the best move too. I looked at it with the chess engine. And by the way, I've upgraded to StockFish 8. I did that over the holiday break there. So we're on the latest and greatest chess engine here. Let's see. So knight to c3 is a fine move. The only thing I don't like about knight c3, and the reason why I play bishop d3, is the knight here blocks the c-pawn, and sometimes it's useful to bring the c-pawn forward to c3 to support the center, like in this game, or to c4 to control more squares. So it gives me some flexibility with the c-pawn if I bring the bishop out here to defend the e-pawn. But this does have a downside, which is that black can play e5, and that kind of shuts in this bishop a little bit. So black should be okay in this position. Let's see, I continued with c3, which is the main move, and he went bishop e7. So bishop e7 is kind of rare. What's funny, yeah, I wanted to look at this. d5 is the top choice. It was also the top-rated move given by the chess engine. But, well, all these positions, according to the chess engine, favor white by about half a pawn. That's the engine's estimate of these positions. So black has got a very small setup, and the engine likes the big space that white gets out of this and easy development. So, and it's pretty easy to play. But I just wanted to look at this d5 line for a little bit. If you go d5 here, let's see, if black goes d5, white takes the e-pawn. That's the main move. I mean, pawn looks to be hanging, but well, your e-pawn is hanging as well, and you get this funny kind of position. Let's see, you've got this advanced pawn here, which may come under fire. So you could continue with knight c6, and you have moves like knight bd2. So white can put pressure on this knight here, and black can put pressure on this pawn, and it appears to be a playable position, and kind of interesting, but a little bit strange. Anyway, he just played the more natural move, bishop to e7. I would say knight to c6 is probably the most natural move here, and the one I was expecting. I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, but I was probably just going to play knight to f3 and hold on to the center rather than pushing. Sometimes pushing is an idea if that knight doesn't have anywhere great to go. But it might just come over here to the king side. I don't know, the chess engine would probably like that because of the space that I get, but I would have this blocked-in bishop. So, I think it's kind of nice to maintain the tension in the center there for white. Okay, so he went bishop e7, I went knight f3, and then he went bishop g4, which is a pretty logical move, but knight bd7 is really the main move. Kind of funny blocking in the bishop. It kind of makes sense to get the bishop out ahead of time. And so I just kicked the bishop, and he decided to trade. I guess there's no great squares to retreat to. If he comes back along this diagonal, I can kick him if he lands on those two squares, and if he goes back to d7, then he's in the way of the knight, which might want to come to d7. So he traded, and all of this is okay. I'll get to the point where the chess engine first starts to give me a winning edge. But like I said, all through this part, white has about a half pawn advantage in the engine's estimate. Let's see, he took, and the center I took, so he's just trying to weaken my center a little bit and also give himself a little more space. Let's see, and now he goes knight to c6. And now I don't really want to push the pawn forward because that just gives up the e5 square. You can put the knight into e5. So I bring my bishop out to defend this pawn. And this h3 move is turning out to be handy because it controls the g4 square. Otherwise, he might try something like knight g4 and try to grab the bishop pair. So he castled here. He could play knight to b5. That is true in this position, but castling makes sense. And at this point, I decided to, or I'm sorry, knight b4. I decided to stop knight b4 with this move, a3, which was not the engine's first choice. The engine just wanted me to go ahead and develop a knight c3. But it's still okay and leaves white with that advantage. It's actually this move, rook e8, which is a very natural-looking move. And suddenly the chess engine gives a winning advantage to white after that move. So the way that the chess engine wants to play, I thought was kind of interesting. It wants to go knight to d7, and with the idea, say, and I play bishop c2, which is also a bit mysterious till you see the next moves. He goes bishop to f6, so that was his idea. He's lining up on the d-pawn, and then the next move given by the chess engine is queen d1. And so that was the idea of moving the bishop back to c2, kind of a mysterious retreat, but it was clearing the d-file so I could support the pawn with the queen and the bishop, so I can just maintain my center. And so that's how the chess engine wants to play for both sides, and still with a good advantage for white, but well, maybe black is getting some little pressure. The funny thing is that after knight d7, I probably would have just played knight to c3. That seems like a natural move to me. And after bishop f6, the chess engine says that actually black has equalized. So this is maybe what black is playing for. He's using his pieces to go after the center. And you know, I've got my pieces off the back rank, but it's not so easy for me to defend this pawn here. I can't bring my queen back to defend. I could defend with knight to e2. Yeah. So anyway, but the chess engine was saying black is close to equalizing in that position, so kind of funny. But rook e8 is leaving white with a winning edge, and actually I keep the winning edge the rest of the game. Let's say I just go, and it's all pretty natural moves here. So I think if you have to find, you know, these resources like knight d7 and bishop to f6, or yeah, knight d7 and bishop f6. In order to save the position, it's probably a pretty tricky position to play. So you know, you can learn to play almost any position, but you know, this is definitely a tough one where you've got to find the right moves because you are just at a disadvantage because of the lack of space. So you have to be pretty precise. Let's see. He moved his bishop back to f8 to help defend around his king. I mean, one thing you can say about black's position is I'm not going to break through quickly, so that is a point in black's favor, but with good play, this should already be a win for white. Kind of funny. And especially with material even. Let's see, he went knight a5. And I think this is not helping his cause. We'll show why in a little bit. Let's see, I just went rook f to d1. I decided it might be useful to have the rook opposite the queen. This file can actually get cleared off pretty quickly, and we see something like that happening in the game. And let's see, he played knight to b3, rook to b1, and then he went c5. And there is a tactic here, which if you saw the game, I played the tactic in the game, but if you want to, you might want to take a moment and see if you can find the tactic or remember it if you saw the game. Okay, pause the video here if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away. The answer is you can just take this pawn. And once again, it has to do with this file. This file is opening up very quickly. Let's see, if he takes back with the pawn already, I can move this bishop with tempo attacking his rook. That's the tactic. Let's see, he took with the knight, but I just trade first, and then I have this move, bishop to b5. So that was the tactic I spotted in the game, and that was what I was looking for. Let's back up to the position before he played c5. The funny thing is that c5 was one of the top engine choices in this position. Basically, everything he does is bad. But the other choice that doesn't give material up is to play queen c8. Just get away from the d file. Let's see, I could play bishop c4 to chase his knight, and then bishop drop back to a2. Drops back to a2, and he plays knight c6. So So that's the chess engine's recommended procedure for black. It wants to, black just spent 2 moves getting the knight all the way to b3, and the chess engine thinks the best play is for him to put his knight back where it came from on c6. And that's certainly a good square for the knight. And although this position is completely even in material, the chess engine is giving white a +2 advantage, just based on, I guess, his active pieces and all the space that he has, all the control of the center. So that would have been best play. Anyway, let's go back to the game. He went c5. I took. He took. I took. He took. And then I played bishop to b5 here. But there was actually another tactic in this position, which is kind of interesting if you want to see if you can spot another idea for white right here. Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away. The top move, bishop b5, which I played, was the engine's second choice. Its first choice was to play the move e5, hitting this knight. And, well, you might as well take that pawn. Black has no way to stop the coming tactic. And the tactic is this one, bishop takes h7 check. And so that's winning the queen for a rook and a bishop. And that leads also to an excellent position for white, slightly better than what I got with bishop b5. So there are just tactics all over the place, which is what happens often when your opponent is behind in development and the position finally opens up. It's hard to find these tactics when it's all closed, but when things open up, you should start looking for them. Okay, so anyway, I played the tactic I spotted. I played bishop to b5, so his queen's under attack, his rook's under attack. He saves the queen, and he's not really attacking my bishop because it's defended in any case. I'm going to take the rook, so I win the exchange, and then he goes, oh, it's my turn here. Yeah, he just took back. I go knight to d5. I figure it's pretty simple, and really I should just go to a winning endgame of some kind. Let's see, he took. So yeah, I'm just forcing some exchanges. And I took with the pawn. I wasn't really sure if I should take with the pawn or the rook. The chess engine prefers rook takes. I mean, the advantage of rook takes is that, I'm threatening to bring the rook down to the 7th rank and gang up on his f7 pawn, which is not defended. It's only defended by the king. But I thought he could control that with the queen move. He could control the d7 square. So I didn't see that led to a whole lot. But this pawn is a little bit weak too. It's an isolated pawn. It is a passed pawn, but well, he can blockade it immediately. And let's see. Well, he started by playing g6. I went with b3 because my pawn was about to come under attack with bishop to g7. Did bishop g7 anyway. I pushed this pawn forward, and he went bishop d4. This was the idea I missed. And with this bishop on d4. Now it's not so easy for me to defend that pawn, and so that's why maybe keeping the pawn where it was and bringing the rook into the game would have been a better idea than the way I played it. But this is still good for white. He really doesn't quite have time to, well, he can win the pawn, but I get a lot of play too. I didn't realize it, but I'm actually getting the b pawn back in this situation. So I want to undermine his bishop. He wants to grab my dangerous d-pawn while he can and also defend his bishop. I trade off here, and he takes back. His queen was under attack too by the pawn, so he had to take back. And then at the end of all that, the b-pawn was hanging. So I never actually lost a pawn. I was thinking for a while there that I was going to lose a pawn after he played that move bishop to d4. But this fact that the b file opened up allowed me to grab a pawn here. So I stay a pawn up. And yeah, my pawn is defended over here. I was wondering if he could grab that pawn, but the queen is looking at it. And the queen is over here defending the f2 square. That's important because he's got his pieces lined up this way. But when I take on b7, I've got that situation that I was looking for, which is my pieces are ganging up on the f7 pawn. And right here, he really has to play rook f8. That's the only move to save or to continue the game. It's still winning for white, but it's a much longer game and mistakes can happen. So typical continuation from here might be g3, just to allow the king to move out of this pin. unpin the pawn there. Let's see, he could play a5, getting his pawn away from my rook, king g2, and the game would continue. I'm up the exchange, but the pawn structure is symmetrical. It's not so easy to break down his position, so the game would continue for quite a while, and he could, you know, hope that I make a mistake or maybe allow a drawish endgame. Anyway, the move he played, f5, actually allows a forced mate, and I was able to spot it. And the key idea is the check. You've got to start with the check. Cancel that. You've got to start with the check. Queen b3 check, this open diagonal here. And now we see one of the weaknesses of the bishop as compared with the rooks. You know, if I'm on the light squares, he really only has two pieces that can help defend them, the queen and the rook, whereas I have three pieces to bring to bear on the light squares. So it's like I've got an extra attacking piece as long as I can arrange my attack on the light squares where all my pieces are currently on the light squares. And let's see, I have to be careful that I don't allow any perpetual checks here, so I did pause for a little bit to think. Let's see, if his king goes to f8, then queen to f7 is mate. So his king has to go to h8. Any interposing, and I just take. And now I played by queen to f7, once again using the light squares and also threatening mate on h7, another light square. And he has one check, and I had to calculate this ahead of time, but if I go to h1, there's no good follow-up check, right? The only check is this one. So basically, it's a forced mate at this point, and he resigned. So good game. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you later. Bye.